Hello YouTube. Today I have the X350 Air Dancer 3D and 6G capable of flight. And let's just turn this around real quick and we'll get it opened up. Already kind of opened it up so I can flip this up. So what you got is your two books, one for the transmitter and one for your quad. You got the quadcopter, you have a parts kit, and you have your 2.4 gigahertz radio. Now, I'm going to try and make this short and sweet, so I'm just going to unbox all this off camera, and then I will have it all laid out so you can actually see what everything is. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Can't really get my tripod positioned properly here and have the right lighting, but anyway, I got it all unboxed. You got the quad. It was sitting packed in here really nice. Had the stops on it to keep it from going anywhere. So you got the quadcopter. It is actually 380 millimeter. It says an X350, but it's 380 millimeter from center of the motor diagonally to the center of the motor. So you can keep that in mind. 380 millimeter wheelbase there, diagonally. You got, hold on a second. You got your battery bay here. I already stuck a number on this. Keep track of stuff. And there's your battery plug. It's an X350. Alright. So let's set that aside. You end up with your two books. You got one for the transmitter and one for your quad. And that's basically putting it together and everything. And you also have two clockwise props, two reverse thread nuts for the clockwise props. You got two counterclockwise props with the standard right to tight nuts. Those are silver, so you can tell them apart. You have a camera mount, and those two thumb screws, they actually mount right here on the front of the quad. Right there, those two little things right there on the very front. And you get your legs for your landing gear. You got 8 landing gear screws. You get a screwdriver, prop nut wrench. Allen wrench is a 2 millimeter actually. And then you have a charger. You got an adapter, and this one came with the US adapter. It's actually a UK plug coming out of there, but it's a US adapter they gave me here. And then you got this little charger, which says 2S3S balance charger. So apparently the light's on green or something like that, or red when it's charging. There's your balance ports right there on the end. And you plug in your power adapter right here. Okay, so that's what was in the, well, this is what was in the parts box. And the rest of this stuff, no, I think the legs were in the parts box, I'm not sure. But the rest of the stuff was in here, packed in with the quad, the props and everything else, the wrenches, everything was in there. And then you also have your transmitter. This is a Futaba HFS or whatever it is. I can't remember the protocol right off the top of my head right now. I'm a little tired trying to do this. I should never do this when I'm tired, but here it is anyway. Pretty decent little thing. You got your... let's see, you have, this is your acro switch. No, yeah, that's your acro switch. This is your 3D switch. That's for your idle, for when you're doing 3D. And you want to make sure when you're doing 3D, start on the ground and make sure your stick is centered before you flip this switch to go into 3D, because then your throttle is from midpoint up is upward thrust. From midpoint down is downward thrust, so that reverses the motor. So when you're inverted, you have to go down. When you're upright, you have to go up, and down to go up when you're inverted. So it gets a little confusing if you're not used to 3D stuff. And then, of course, you have your right stick. This is a mode 2, so the throttle's on the left-hand side. Then on this side, you have your rate switch. That's low rate and high rate. And then here's your throttle kill. That's killed, and that's armed. Pull it up towards you, and that's throttle killed and armed. Okay, and then you've got your trim switches down here. all your trim switches, and the power button, and then you have your display here. I do have some batteries in here, so I'll just turn it on just to give you an idea of the display. And if I can get this to focus here, this is basically what you will see when you turn it on. That's in low rate. See a little triangle on the bottom there. Put it in high rate, that comes on. There's no arm indicator on here. That's one thing it lacks, is an indicator on the panel that's saying it's armed. No warnings to say it's armed or anything like that. So, yeah, this is got a lot of settings in here. I'll do another video on the settings, the default settings, so you guys can know what those are. They're in the book anyway. Let's see. Okay, well, that's everything in the box. And it was packaged up quite nicely. Had these little protectors on the sticks and on the antenna. And the antenna actually does come up through this top piece right here. This top piece right here. The antenna actually does come up inside here through this top piece. Yeah, the gimbals are pretty cheap if you actually look inside one of these things, but they do feel pretty good. They're not the best, but they are a heck of a lot better than any toy grade. I can tell you that. The switches are nice. They're half decent. It's got a nice handle here. Got your lanyard clip right there. So it's got some decent stuff in here. I think it takes 6 AA's. 6. Yep, 6 AA's is what I put in there. So yeah, you got your adjustments back here. You can switch it from mode 2 to mode 1 or back, whichever way. You can snug up your sticks a little bit, not much. You also have a PPM plug in here, audio jack, if you want to see about using it with a simulator. I've never tried that yet because I don't have a simulator or plugs to do that with. So this is what we got. And just to give you an idea here, the legs go on, of course, right here. You got the eight screws for your legs right here. But what I would recommend doing is when you go to put these on, put the screws into the leg here first. There's two small holes there. Get them into the legs first, and then you'll set your leg on here. It's got a center hole and a little peg there to keep you centered. I'm sorry I have to hold the camera like this, but I could not get a good view with my tripod in this small area. But you got the screws in there already. You can just hold that up there and just start the screws a little bit, and then you can push that down on there and just snug it down on each one. And you want to get these things good and snug. You don't want them so tight that you strip them, because there is a brass screw holes in there, which is nice. That keeps them in place pretty good. But hey, you want to get them nice and snug. Before you do any flights, you want to check all your screws, all your motor screws. You want to check all your body screws, make sure everything's snug. And yeah, if you use the FPV, I would say put some Loctite on those thumb screws, so that way that thing doesn't go anywhere. It could vibrate loose. Now, on the props, just to show you here, these actually have a little flat spot in there. See, one side's got a flat spot on it. That's because on the motor, you can't really see it on camera here, but right here, at the base of the motor, it's like 2 different sizes here, and then right here there's a slot. When you put these props on, you want the notches that are up, you want the notches up. You don't want to put them down. It won't go on that way. You want to put the notches up, and make sure you get the right ones on the right sides. The clockwise props with the black nuts, this is front of the quad. The black nuts with the clockwise props go here and here, so it's front left, rear right, and the exact opposite for the counterclockwise props. right front and left rear. And you got to remember that the black nuts are reverse threads, so you do left to tighten them up. So yeah, I'm going to put this thing together, and I'm going to get back on here in just a second. I'm just going to get everything screwed down and tightened up and see what's going on with this thing. I'll be right. Okay, I got this thing all together here, and I did forget to mention battery. It's a 3S 2200 milliamp battery. I'm assuming this is around a 50C. It doesn't say on there anywhere, but that's what you get with it. It's got the X350 connector and the balance lead. Okay, so here we go. I told you the clockwise props have the reverse thread nuts, the black nuts. They go catty corner, and the same thing with the counterclockwise. You have the standard thread nuts. And there's the camera mount. I just stuck it on there. I'm not going to use it myself, but it's not much of a mount. It's just a little plate that sticks out, as you can mount stuff to it. You do have power and servo ports, it looks like, in here for your cameras. I think that's just going to be your power for your camera, 5 volt. And that I'm not sure exactly. I'm going to have to look in the book for that. But all that stuff's in the book. I don't remember what it said about that. Now, when you turn this on, you want to make sure that you definitely have your throttle disarmed. You have to have it pulled towards you. Make sure when you go to plug this thing in that this is this way, and you don't turn on your transmitter till after you plug it in. You just plug in the battery with the connector down here. I would say put the battery in first. And I did notice with this battery, with the way this plug is in here, if I put the X350 on the right going in, then when you plug it in, you can tuck that other cable down and this way into the quad. So that works out pretty well that way. Now, when you get it on, when you actually turn it on, after you plug in, well, there's no power switch on this. It's just you plug in the battery. When you get this on, you're not going to have a green light here. You're going to have kind of an amber colored light. And then when you turn on your transmitter, it will bind and this light will turn green. Now, when you go into acro, by flipping this switch, then you are going to have a red light on the back. And I can't remember what it does when you go into the 3D mode with the idle here. I don't remember if it changed or not. But I'm no good with flying 3D. Certainly not 3D. I don't have all those mad ninja skills for acro or anything yet. I'm still working on that because I don't have much of any money to really pick up a lot of good stuff. So I'm working my way up gradually. But yeah, this is, I mean, as for flight characteristics, it's pretty stable. I'm going to do a flight video here on this thing so you guys can actually see it in action. But there will not be any acro and there will not be any 3D because I just don't do it. Not yet. Not that good. I'm hoping to get there. But yeah, this is a decent looking quad. I mean, it looks good. It's not too shabby looking, but I do not like how flimsy these arms are. I mean, this is just a little too much flex for my taste, even on a toy grade. Unless it has no power, and this thing I know this thing's going to have some kind of power. These are 1400 kV motors, I think. Can't see anything on there right now. It just says XK over here. I can't see anything else on them. But I'm pretty sure they're 1400 kV motors. And yeah, they will twist this if you have the throttle turned all the way up. You can adjust the throttle, pitch, angle, everything in this transmitter. So I know that the full throttle out of the box is set at 70. And I don't know how high it goes, but I think they set it at that level because of this right here. That's what I think they set it at that level for, because of this twisting. I mean, the torque from these motors can actually easily twist this. There's no question about that. So they probably set it at 70 on the throttle curve at the highest rate, so that way it doesn't twist off, you know, twist the arms off of it. But yeah, it looks okay. Probably a casual flyer. I wouldn't go crazy with it. It is capable of 3D, and I can tell you, if you're going to do 3D, I know for a fact, just talking to somebody that does 3D flying with helicopters, you want to be on the high rates. You don't want to do 3D and low rates. You want to be in your high rate, which is switch down. Switch up is low rates on this. And yeah, that's what he always said. Always do your 3Ds and high rates when he does his helicopters. So that's, I'm assuming that would apply to this as well, so you have more responsiveness and a little more pitch and roll on there and yaw when you're doing your 3D stuff. But like I said, I don't do 3D yet. I don't do acro. I've tried it, just not good at it yet, so I don't even want to bother with it on this. Once I get a super durable quad put together, maybe I'll start trying to really get into some acro and stuff. But right now, this, I'm not going to trust myself with it. I don't like this flimsiness. The body is plastic. I'm sure it's going to break easy. You know, one good hit and it'll probably be done. So, okay, well, here's this. I'm going to get my flight video out. I'm going to have to go out and fly it somewhere. And I'll be posting that up next.